Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are so happy that you're here for the world premiere of Every Penguin in the World. In a moment, we'll be joined by Charles Bergman, my husband and travel companion, who's the author and photographer of the book, Every Penguin. Chuck has a wonderful story to tell, beautiful photographs that we're going to be seeing from our travels to see every penguin in the world. We'll get to that in just a moment. While Chuck is talking, we invite you in the chat room of Zoom to let us know your comments, your questions. We will have time for questions at the end. We'll run about 30 minutes in total and would love to hear what you want to know about penguins and about our travels. One word of gratitude to Pacific Lutheran University, who co-sponsored this evening's event. They have been terrific sponsors and hosts, and have been amazing for all of the travels that Chuck and students have made globally. So many experiences over the years. So thanks once again to PLU, and Chuck, over to you.
Thank you, Susan. Just so you know, it's all my students' fault. The students, I mean, at Pacific Lutheran University, where I was a professor for 38 years. I blame the students. I blame you, many of you here. I blame the students for this ridiculous obsession that I have with penguins. For me, penguins began not in Antarctica, but on the equator, and with an amazing group of students. We were on the Galapagos Islands. We were in a boat on a 1-month study tour. We were reading literature and now cruising from the red sand shores of Rabida Island to Bartolomé, where we hope to see penguins and maybe even swim with them. We were four students and I were on the deck. We were in a conversation about the entire trip. And it was amazing. The islands were sliding by behind us as we talked. It was a beautiful morning, one of the best mornings in my life. The trees were in fresh leaf. The sea was dark blue and beautiful. The sun was warm. And we had been swimming off the boat that morning. We had great excursions every day, including to see animals like this, flightless cormorants and marine iguanas. And the readings were great. And I just found myself thinking, does college get any better than this? And one of those 4 students, and I know exactly who the 4 were, one of them said, it's just incredible. It's just incredible that we're here. And I said, it is incredible. And I wonder, is there any place that we could have as a destination for a study trip like this that would be even more incredible? And I don't know who said it. Maybe it was all of us at once. In my memory, that's kind of how it goes. But all of a sudden, we all just thought, what about Antarctica? I didn't know it then, but looking back on it now, my penguin journey began in that moment. 2 years later, those same 4 students and 15 more were on a boat as we arrived in Antarctica. It was an incredible moment, a dream come true in a dream landscape. Just absolutely fantastic. And in fact, in that Zodiac that's about to disappear into the ice is the president of the university and his wife, Lauren and Marianne Anderson. We were one of the very first universities in the entire world to have undergraduates studying on the continent of Antarctica. I'm really proud of that. And we were the first university in the country to have students studying at the same time on all 7 continents. And Susan and I came up with this idea to try to see all 18 species of penguins in the world, and we can trace that quest back to the conversation with students. All the great experiences, all the amazing stories, even the great photos, a 17-year journey found their way into this book that we now have. It's now been written. And I really feel like I owe this huge debt to all the students I traveled with, those 4 in particular, but all of you who shared this journey with me. And I owe a debt of gratitude to PLU as well. And I'm just really excited to share a little bit of this book and a little bit of this story with you this evening. Penguins will call you to a really, really great adventure. If you answer that call, they'll change you. They'll change your life. And I know because they changed mine. And I know they changed Susan. And I'm pretty sure they changed some of your lives as well. They did it by offering 3 lessons that I'd like to share with you. One is to be more adventurous, to get outside your comfort zone. The second is to learn more about the world. And by that, I mean the world needs us to pay attention to it right now. We need to get outside ourselves and actually focus on what's going on. And the third lesson is the one I really want to talk about this evening, which is to quest for something sacred and even transformational. Penguins are living lessons in a deepening love for the planet and its creatures in all their beauty and vulnerability. So what began for Susan and me as a bunch of adventures to wonderful locations to see great animals like these penguins, the Gentoo penguins in Falkland Islands, over time began to look to us like something much more of a spiritual journey. A journey for something sacred and transformational. Of all things, we began to feel like we were pilgrims of penguins. A pilgrimage is an external journey undertaken to invoke a corresponding internal journey. A pilgrimage is almost by definition a journey of hope. Hope to be healed, hope to be whole, hope above all to be changed. I wanted to learn to see into things more fully, to see into the mystery of things. I wanted to learn to see with the eyes of the heart. No creature inspires hope and a sense of mystery more than penguins, and especially emperor penguins. They are living mysteries. Just consider some of the astonishing features of their lives. They're the iconic penguin. They're 3 feet tall and the biggest penguin in the world. They are completely associated with Antarctica. They're the only penguin that will never leave the Antarctic Circle. And when all other animals, birds really, abandon Antarctica for the winter, this penguin, the emperor penguin, not only stays, but it has its babies in the midst of the most ferocious winters on the planet. Minus 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, common. Winds over 100 miles an hour, common. Total darkness for several months. No shelter because they're out on sea ice. In this circumstance, the female lays an egg, and she transfers it to the feet of the male, who tucks it under his tummy. And she leaves. She goes fishing for the next 9 weeks. And you might find this a paradigm that we could maybe learn something from. The male keeps the egg for those 9 weeks. And let's remember, extreme cold, ferocious winds, no shelter, 9 weeks. And yes, he stands the entire time and he doesn't eat a thing. He'll lose 40% of his weight in those 9 weeks. No amount of scientific explanation can exhaust the awe and wonder of these creatures. I wanted to live in their company for a time. I wanted to be in their presence. I wanted them to stir in me a sense of awakened wonder. The northernmost colony of emperor penguins is in Snow Hill Island on the Antarctic Peninsula. There are only 22 colonies in the whole of the world, only a couple 100,000 emperor penguins. Susan and I began to realize that we couldn't really complete a pilgrimage for penguins without having seen a colony. It became the holy grail of our penguin pilgrimage. We chose the Snow Hill colony to visit. We traveled from Seattle down to Tierra del Fuego in Ushuaia, and in Ushuaia we boarded a Russian icebreaker. And on that icebreaker, the Kapitan Kolevnikov, we crossed the Drake Passage, 600 miles of the roughest seas in the ocean. We navigated into the Antarctic Sound, choked with ice, turned into the Weddell Sea, and smashed our way through the ice towards Snow Hill Island. Any journey to see an emperor penguin colony is its own kind of crazy. Crossing that body of water, the Southern Ocean, is always an adventure. It's always exhilarating, sometimes scary, and on occasion, downright dangerous. It will give you lots of opportunities to contemplate your mortality. And our particular journey was especially rich in these opportunities. An icebreaker is meant to smash ice, but it's not meant for heavy seas. An icebreaker actually goes up above the ice and smashes down on it and crashes it open. It doesn't plow through it. Well, this is why it needs a flat bottom. And a flat bottom means it's not stable at sea. We had a journey that normally would take 40 hours. It took us 72 hours to cross the Drake Passage. The entire time in these seas. This is footage from that trip. 25-foot waves, 70-mile-an-hour winds. Most people went to their bunks, but I went up to the bridge on the top deck, 10 decks up, and sat out on the edge. And the boat rocked 35 degrees one way and 35 degrees the other way. It went, in other words, practically halfway to the ocean. It was the most wild ride, outrageous, incredible, exhilarating, and stupid. And I loved it. Penguin watching isn't really for the faint of heart. And then when we got to the Weddell Sea, the icebreaker came into its own. We could see the cracks in the ice shoot out like jagged lightning bolts from the front of the ship as it smashed its way through. Our goal was to get within 10 miles of Snow Hill Island. And then we would take a helicopter to the ice floe. But there are all kinds of ways this voyage can fail. The ship cannot get through the ice. It can't get close enough to the island. The weather can be bad, foggy, whiteout, snow, any number of things. If the helicopters can't fly, you don't get to go to the colony. And that happens a lot. I've talked to a lot of people who've gone all the way down there and not gotten to the colony. We were incredibly lucky. We got to within 6 miles of the island and the weather turned. It was sunny for 3 days in a row. High filtered clouds for beautiful light for photography. No wind, we were just so lucky. Every day we got in a helicopter, flew to the base camp on the ice, were dropped off, and then hiked 1.5 miles to the colony. And you can see here the layout. The base camp is on the bottom. You can see people walking up to the emperor penguin colony. And that's Snow Hill Island off on the left, 2 miles away. We're out on sea ice. We're not on land. And in fact, an emperor penguin is maybe the only bird in the world that can live its entire life and never touch land. A trip to an emperor penguin colony is like no other experience with wildlife in the world. They're curious, they'll come up to you. And I think they were sort of interested in us because we had colors that were sort of like theirs. This gorgeous gold and black. The adults were incredibly beautiful with that sunrise burst in their ear patches and a wash of gold on their chests. They're closely related to king penguins. You can see they're the same genus. but I'll leave it to you to decide which of these two you think is the more beautiful. But the chicks stole the show. I knew they were cute. I'd done my reading, I'd seen photos, but nothing can prepare you for how cute these chicks really, really are. They're so adorable. They're full of personality, each one different, bubbling, effervescent, and they are, I think, the cutest bird babies in the world. They may be the cutest animal babies in the world. They have gray down bodies, flippers, wings that have turned into flippers that look a lot like arms, and they don't know what to do with them yet. Black helmet on their heads, white cheeks, white chin. They remind me of little kids in pajamas. One of my favorite things is that they form creches or nurseries. They get together. When they get of a certain age, their parents will go off fishing, and the chicks are just really active. They're wandering all over the colony, and then they'll get into these little groups, and adults will often babysit them there. This will give you an idea. By the way, well, they each have these sort of individual personalities, and here's how a creche forms. This gives you an idea of what's happening. This little group takes off. They're going to go off to explore something in the colony. Here comes an adult, and watch them. They'll start begging a little bit. That's it. Their heads go forward and backward. They're the original headbangers. Up come the wings. And the adult's job is to keep them in shape, get them into order. And watch how the adult does that. It's going to be a wind up in a minute because one of the chicks is not quite where it should be. And it's a, get back in there. And sure enough, they're back in their group. This will last for maybe a couple seconds and they're off again. I think I love this so much because I identify with that emperor penguin, the adult. That's me, and they're my PLU chick, emperor penguin chick students. But one chick in particular got my attention. It came right up to me as I was sitting on the ice, and penguins do that. Looked right at me, apparently wanted to get closer, took a step forward, slipped on the ice, and did a face plant in the snow. And as long as he was there, he just decided, apparently, I might as well eat snow. And that's the penguin really in a nutshell. Cute, curious, and clumsy all at the same time. But what was interesting about this penguin was that it was alone. And with every adult that came back to the colony, this penguin went up to it and started begging, that head thrown back, big bottomed, chirping. And the adults, for the most part, ignored it, wanted nothing to do with it, pushed past it, occasionally smacked it because the chick was actually so annoying. But they have to be tough because only a third of those chicks are going to make it to their first birthday. And then an adult penguin came up to the same chick. This is that same chick. Gave the kind of kazoo sound that they make. And the chick bobbed its head and turned around and backed into the chest, that golden pillow of the parent's chest. And a look came over that chick's eyes of utter contentment. And the adult bent forward and touched the chick with just this kind of infinite tenderness. It's just so interesting, these extreme conditions and the tenderness of these penguins. And it was just the image of parental love. There are times in the world where what you see becomes indistinguishable from what you feel. These images are often defining images. They can sometimes tell us who they are. They can certainly tell us something about ourselves. The creatures align themselves so perfectly with feeling that the barrier between them sort of dissolve. The inner and the outer come together and become indistinguishable. And in these moments, we see how nature heals the attentive heart. That feeling you get, that magical feeling in the company of penguins, is like the feeling with no other animal in the world. It's a combination of awe and admiration, affection, and pure delight. That feeling will change you. That feeling may even save you. That feeling will show you how nature comes to live inside of you. Susan and I have given a name to this feeling. We call it the penguin glow. And I should warn you, if you've ever felt it, you know you don't want to let it go, and in fact, you want it more and more. Be careful though. It is addictive. And so that's it. A little chick with a big lesson about hope and parental love in a daunting world. A year ago, I was able to go back to the Galapagos Islands. I led a group of alumni and friends to the Galapagos, back where my penguin adventures all began. And I was able to photograph this particular penguin on a huge rock in front of a dark cave with ocean waves crashing below it and sending up this mist of spray all around the penguin. And for just an instant, a rainbow formed around the penguin. And it was just astonishing. It was just incredible. It really was amazing. A penguin with his own personal rainbow. A penguin with his own personal penguin glow. And for me, a rainbow at the end of Penguin's Pilgrim. Some people want a pot of gold at the end of their rainbow, but I'll take a penguin under mine. Rainbows, of course, mean hope and fresh starts, and penguins do too. We live in a really, really trying moment right now. It's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, both in the near future and the farther out future. It's kind of scary, but I can tell you this, in the company of penguins, it's very difficult to feel overwhelmed or defeated. They'll make you laugh. They'll console you. But it's more than penguin therapy. They're just joyful to watch. And they'll teach you how to love nature more. And in the penguin glow, I think we can see a real possibility for a new future and a better one too. No wonder penguins are the most beloved birds in the world. So thank you very much. That's my Emperor Penguin talk. It's been a pleasure to share this with you tonight.
Hooray! Congratulations. Congratulations, Chuck. That's great. So we've got a couple of announcements, and then we have several questions and comments that came in, and we'll move to those in just a moment.
Great.
So announcements first. One, if you go to Chuck's website, which you'll see the address on the left, you'll find a special book page that we set up for every penguin that has all kinds of information and resources, including an educational guide for kids and young people with really cool interactive research projects that students can do online. So if you're one of those like teachers trying to do online learning or a parent trying to do at-home schooling, the educational resource guide is terrific for you. There's also a reader's guide that you wrote, right?
I wrote a reader's guide. I wrote both of them actually, but and so you can use that for discussions in clubs. If you want to have a group reading about penguins, you can use the reader's guide that I developed for you.
Right.
And you want to tell them about the other thing?
I do. The other thing that's really cool, and you'll find this info on the book page too, is that Chuck is making himself available virtually at no charge to join book clubs over the next 3 months. And all of the information is available on the book page about how to do that, dates that are already set up. You can request Chuck's participation at a virtual event or a classroom, and also you do presentations.
Oh yeah. If you like this story, I have more.
Yes, he does have more stories to tell. And we want to hear your story. We want to hear, like, because we know many of you, there are people from all over the world, Ecuador, Australia, all across the US, some folks from Canada, students, many people, colleagues. It's great to see you all here. And we want to know what your penguin story is. So what's your favorite photo from every penguin in the world? Or
Have you had a penguin experience? Well, write it up. We'd like to gather them together.
Right.
And how will they do that?
That's right. So post it on Facebook or Instagram and use the hashtag that you see up there, every penguin in the world, and hashtag Penguin Glow.
Penguin Glow.
Penguin Glow, of course. And you can follow us on Instagram at Wild Quest. That's Chuck, at Penguin Glow. That's me.
Should we talk to questions? Should we?
Yes, let's do it. Okay, ready? So I'm stepping away for a minute to get questions, but you can still hear me, I know. Okay, great. From Mark, what is the lizard that you showed in the Galapagos?
Oh, that was a marine iguana. In fact, that island has a really dense, it has over 300,000 marine iguanas on that island. And you only find marine iguanas in the Galapagos Islands. And there are stories to tell about that too.
Yeah, that's right. I love marine iguanas.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're fantastic
They're
animals.
ugly beautiful.
Yeah. So one of the things that I loved as I was watching the comments in the chat is that there were a number of people here with us this evening who have their kids with them. Rana with the 6-year-old, Jenna is talking about her kids. And so what would you say about penguins for kids, like young kids or teens who are thinking about penguins and traveling or how to help penguins?
Wow. Well, there's lots of things to think about. You might think about, I think actually one of the reasons we like penguins so much is they remind us of kids. I think they sort of evoke in us a kind of parental affection, which is one of the reasons we love them so much. So there's this nice identity between kids and penguins. And I think just let children see pictures and let children read stories about penguins for sure. And then we have lots of resources in the book actually to help you with reading or to look up things to do. We have a whole sheet, really.
Yes.
Why don't you say something?
Okay, great. So on the book page is a free download of a Make a Difference card about ways that you can help wildlife and the natural world. And it's always timely to do those things, especially timely now because tomorrow is
Earth Day.
Earth Day.
And not only that, I think it's Saturday. Is it Saturday? The 25th is World Penguin Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big days coming up.
And so the other thing with kids is you can just show them videos of penguins. They'll love it. Watching penguins is just a joy. People love doing it. And there's lots of penguins online right now. And the zoos all over the place are sharing penguin videos with people for everybody to watch. So it's really easy to watch penguins.
Fantastic. Nikki, thank you so much for posting the link to the book page. Really appreciate that. And so we have one more question before we close for the evening.
Okay.
Okay. So here it is. I traveled, several students said they came to PLU because they wanted to do a study away program with you to Antarctica. So we heard from Jenna, Bristol, several other, forgive me if I'm like not calling out your name, but there's a whole bunch of
it's your fault.
PLU alums here, and I traveled with some of you as well. So several of them made beautiful comments about how much those experiences meant to them. And I wonder, in closing, if you could say something about what you think students gained by having these experiences out in the world.
Well, let me just say, one of the things I loved about teaching at PLU were these study away courses. And I loved going to some of the places like Antarctica, but other places as well, the Galapagos, Uganda, any number of places. But let me talk about Antarctica. It's a spectacular place. It's vast and huge. And as some students have said, it can make you feel small. It's a really powerful feeling of smallness. But the amazing thing about the experience is that you feel small, but not insignificant. And I think that really says something. That becomes life-changing. That moment, the sense of humility, well, really, the sense of humility can itself be a life-changing moment. But that to feel humbled, but not meaningless, is really powerful. And quite the opposite, feeling sort of bigger in the context of the whole place. I love being able to take students to places where that kind of experience could happen. And it's been my pleasure to do that with a number of you, and I really, really loved it. It's part of what made my career in teaching so worthwhile to me.
Okay, so that was our final question. In the chat room, I put our email addresses, yours and mine, in case anyone wants to follow up.
Good. Do,
And
please, yeah.
right, so anything you want to say in conclusion?
Thanks a lot for coming. It's been a pleasure to make the presentation with you. I hope you enjoyed the book. If you will take a look at it and stay in touch, because there might be more things coming.
Yeah, there will definitely be more things coming. Thanks a lot, everybody. We really appreciate you being here. Good night.
Bye. Penguin Glow.
Penguin Glow.